Okay, so tonight on Let's Talk with Jordon, I'm interviewing the artist behind the number of what people may consider very unorthodox in his presentation of film and photography. Now, he's a young artist in his final year at the University of the West Indies, and we would like to wish him all the best as he prepares for his final leg before he graduates, hopefully in October, provided that COVID-19 doesn't shut that down too. So, Jordon, let's go straight into the meat of the matter. Having watched your videos, particularly the one about eating sponge, and looking at some of your images, particularly with Santa doing very naughty things, is it in your mind, what is the concept or the rationale behind those images that you presented for your presentation for your final year?
Okay, so for me, the work that I created and the images and the videos all have to do with absurdity. So everything that I produced, everything that I pieced together, it's not meant to make sense. They're all supposed to be strange, they're all supposed to be absurd, they're all while doing that, me having fun. This is because I've realized and reached a point in my life where I think things don't necessarily make sense. Things don't kind of add up. So you're born and you die, and that in-between point of what's supposed to happen, and trying to find meaning and making most of it. Where, for me, I've come to the conclusion where things aren't necessarily always going to have a meaning. Things aren't necessarily always going to have some grand purpose or revelation or anything. So I figured, if that's the case, might as well make the best of life. Have fun. Do whatever it is that you want to do. Because what else is there to do rather than cry about it? I think everyone has a perspective of what absurdity is and what you could do with it. And people also find their own definitions and meanings and ways to interpret what is the absurd, what is the strange, what is the unnatural. So for me, that's how I found a way to do it. By taking my imagination, taking my weird ideas, taking the dumb thoughts and situations that sometimes I come up with my friends or that I see, and making them into the art that I made. My work and the aim of my work is to be absurd. And the gelling point between fun and the absurdity that is created is I don't want my work to be a painful process or tooling process or something that I have to think too long or hard about, or something that has to go into a whole super amount of details.
So in other words, is it fun that the fun is a sense of release, mental release for you, as opposed to generating some level of intensity that a lot of people would get when they think of absurd? Is that it?
In relation to absurdity and fun, it's not a case where the work is meant to bring out fun or bring out any sense of that, but the work is absurd first and foremost at the end of the day. And where the fun comes into place and gels itself with the absurdism is how I want to work, where I don't want to have to stress over my work, where I don't want to be able to create work where I have my own fun, my own release, where I don't have to think, oh, what's the next move, what is happening next, what's the next picture, what's the next shot, what's the next anything, where at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun, not just for me, but the people who are doing it as well.
Alright, so is it a case now where the art guides you to your second spot as opposed to you thinking what you're going to do next? Is it a question in that fun you are looking at it as not necessarily as a hobby or as relaxation, but looking at it as an opportunity to see, as an adventure, to see where your next art, where your next piece takes you to another place?
in relation to your question and relation to my work, a lot of my work is self-documentary, or in that sense. And what happens and what I've realized is that I've been creating along the lines of things that I see, or things that I've experienced, things that have happened to me, and also creating along the lines of my thoughts, or things that I'm going through, things that I'm thinking. And that's what my work has been for quite some time. I'm now coming to terms with that and realizing that. So creating absurd work isn't the end all and be all of anything that I create. And it could go anywhere it may take its mind to, or where I may take my mind to. But finally I chose to focus on absurdity and that train of thought for myself, because it was something where my mind is a bit big, and I figured might as well focus in on one thing and have other experiences inform it, or things influence the work, but not try to stray too far from this one theme for now, or for this final year project.
Okay. What inspired you to do some of the presentations that you have done? What inspired you to do those things? Like, for example, you just ruined the whole reputation of Santa Claus in one go. What made you do that?
So, the work itself and the idea with Santa, the first shoot that I did with Santa Claus was because I was trying to come up with an idea of what is a weird thing that you could do in a bar, or what is a weird visual that you could see in a bar, and I had whole surplus of ideas. One of them being Santa Claus being in the bar drinking as well. And that bar idea didn't come to light. It didn't happen. But I ended up with a Santa costume in preparation for that bar idea. And I was at a point of, I didn't create anything for a bit because of Carnival, and I wanted to get back on the grind of work and just having shoots and doing work. So when that was happening, I was like, okay, I have a Santa costume. What can I do with a Santa costume? And the same day, I was supposed to be going to the boardwalk for another shoot. So, unrelated to school-based things, but going to the boardwalk for another shoot. So, I asked my friend Chris to come with me to the boardwalk, and I was like, would it be strange if Santa just starts shaving his legs in the middle of the boardwalk? And he was like, yeah. It's like, okay, well, Santa's gonna shave his legs. You wanna shave your legs for me in the middle of the boardwalk wearing a Santa costume? And Chris was completely down for it, as my friends have been through this process, and I'm really glad for them for that, where they've been really supportive. So that is the start of Santa, and he made his other appearance then after with the game night photo shoot, where that photo shoot idea had more people in my head, but based on how much people I had available to me, I had to make do with what I had. So I used the Santa costume again, because for whatever reason, Santa being outside of Christmas just seems strange to me on a whole. So I started playing with the Santa costume more, and that's how Santa ended up being produced more than once within that span of work.
Okay, so now...
That in reference to Santa and him being present in the work and naughty and nice, none of that was my train of thought at all. It was just that I wanted Santa and I had a Santa costume. And it's something that one of my lecturers, Nicola Noel, told us, and he told me this way before I even started working on long distance, but when I was developing the concept that started it all, where he told me, be in control of your signifiers, because everything is a sign. People will always see something and think, okay, what does this lead to? What does X lead to? Where does this go? What's the meaning? And the truth is that none of my work is supposed to have a meaning. There's no point to any of it. They're all just random things that I put together in my head that just seem weird. But there wasn't any large thought or large concept to say, yeah, this is some hidden meaning here or this is some narrative. And I think that's the thing that I appreciate about my work, where although this is how I'm creating, I know people are still going to watch it and still going to break it down, still going to try to put some kind of reference to build some story when there is none. And it's a weird thing that I really like about my work, because I know at the end of the day that's going to happen no matter what.
What is the other? Game night also includes the
Ghost?
no, when you had the dinner table outside.
So that one wasn't game night. That was part of a separate shoot that happened on the same day. So that one was dinner date. That one originally had me having mixed feelings about it, just because it was a case where I wanted to be the photographer. In all my work, I want to be the photographer. I want to be the person who captures the work. I want to be the person who's behind the screen watching all of it happen and capturing it. So that one became a situation where the dress that we had for the shoot, the only other person that could fit into the dress did not want to wear a dress. So I had
Why
to...
was that?
Why didn't they want to wear a dress? For their own personal reasons. I can't force anyone to wear a dress. I think also because since both the game night shoot and the shoot happened on the same day and the game night shoot happened first, and that one was a bit intense, I could maybe understand why they might not want to wear a dress. So I was like, well, fine, I'll wear the dress, because at the end of the day I want to this to happen. I reached so far and had the idea, so why not make it happen? But it became a situation in a case of, okay, who do I let take the pictures in? Because I can't be in the dress and be in the photos and still be taking the pictures. And fortunately for me, someone who goes to school with me, Nicklin, was there and was present. So I was like, okay, you're the person who I think would be closest or best able to operate the camera or at least get the shots. And with me guiding her and helping her throughout using the camera, she was able to get the shots that made the game night photo shoot. I mean the dinner date photo shoot, sorry.
Okay, so what did it feel like for you to be on the other side of the camera?
To be on the other side of the camera had two perspectives on it for me. The first one being, I want to be behind the camera. I don't want to be the person in the shoot. While there's nothing against me being on camera, it's more of, I want to be the person who gets to capture it.
So is it a question of controlling the setting, or is it or you just want to be the one with your eye see what you want to see, as opposed to you being in it and somebody else sees it?
I think it was a case of me wanting it to be what I saw, as well as a case and a debate that I was having in my head of, if I'm not taking the pictures, is it still my art? And that led down to a different rabbit hole and conversation where the answer was yes. But that was my thought process at the time. No, the other perspective of me being behind the camera was the fact that I got to create and use the concept how I would have seen it in my head. Where most of my ideas, it starts with a concept, and I have certain ideas or certain shots I want or have in my head. But from there, it generates however the models and the people I'm using see fit. So half of it is me just creating and working, and the other half is just whatever happens while all of this is going on. And being on the end of, okay, let's just start making up things, was a point where it was fun, where I enjoyed myself, and I think it brought a certain light to the shoot that may not have happened if it was another person, because everyone's different. Everyone will always do their own things in their own ways, And I think I'm already pretty strange. So having a dinner date set up in the middle of the road and people are literally, my neighbors are outside there watching all of this. There are people who are trying to drive on the road and we had to like move the sets and put it back so many times. And in all of that, I was there in my dress like, hey, what's going on? You know, just having fun with it.
Now, you have developed a concept of absurdity based on your experience at university, right? So, now that you're coming down to the end of your experience, your tertiary level experience, so at least your undergrad experience, how do you define art now as opposed to like when you were in Form 5, when you were in Form 6, now that you're at university? Have you expanded or broadened your perspective on art and how it relates to how you look at absurdity?
Okay, so for me, while I may view life as absurd and I may view certain things as absurd, a big part of what influenced me and what was my decision making for sticking within absurdity and doing absurd work for my final year project was because within art, I've realized, see things differently. And certain things, not necessarily within the degree, but within the art world on a whole, don't necessarily make sense to me and could seem a little strange. So it was also a sense of me trying to work past that point and me trying to say, okay, well, if things don't necessarily make sense in art or I see things as strange, why am I trying to make sense in a world that doesn't make sense? Why am I trying to produce work and make work, stressing myself over things when there are things in this art world that don't necessarily make sense? To have a commentary or conversation not only about life not making sense, but how art could not make sense sometimes. And it's fine if art doesn't make sense, because at the end of the day, art is forever going to be art, whatever you produce or however you choose to produce it. But to me, it was a case where, because I needed to work that out and talk about all these things and these thoughts and everything going through my head, that I chose to say, okay, I'm going to work through and talk about absurdity in my work.
So do you think you have overcome that hurdle where you think that where that conflict was for you with regards to how people perceive art to be? Do you think you have overcome that hurdle now?
I think at the end of the day, it's not necessarily a thing of overcoming a hurdle, but a case for me where it's realizing, okay, this is what it is, and I've made my peace with it. I've had my conversation with it and about it, and I'm gonna keep doing absurd things because I've realized I enjoy doing that, but it's not gonna be the only thing that I do. Likewise, it's a case where at the end of the day, if everything is going to be absurd, I can't change that. Things are forever not going to make sense, and there's no point where things will make sense. But why am I forcing myself to make sense in a place that doesn't make sense? For the setup, because I didn't actually talk about the setup at all, is originally I had certain ideas of how I wanted it to be displayed or how I wanted it printed or framed or set up and all those things, but because of certain limitations and restrictions due to COVID-19 and having to set up home, technically in this wall right behind me, just now there's a couch here again, I chose to make it in a way where I used as much screens as possible because there's no really printer open for me to print anyway. So I chose to use as much screens as possible that I had access to. Thankfully, it was enough where I could do every shoot on a screen. and it's possible for it to engage multiple people at the same time. And you could take your time with the work. So you could focus on one screen, look at it, and by the time you're done, there's another screen to look at, and it could engage you for a while. And I think that's something that I like, because within the work and within how I created the work, the longer you look at it, the stranger it becomes. The more weird and absurd that you realize it is, the more and more you watch it. And creating an element and an environment where you could look at one work and you keep looking at it, and then as soon as you look at it, you can move on and look at another. But you could also create work. You could also all look at it at the same time, and you could look at it however you choose to look at it. That was part of why I set it up, the way I set it up, and what I liked about how I set it up.
Okay. Very good. And that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Part 2.
Yeah. Taco wraps. No tacos. Veggie wraps. Masala. What does masala have to do with wraps?
Gyros.
I could go for a gyro and just go everything over, you know.
And folks, thank you all for listening. It was wonderful talking in the spotlight with young artists
There's a light
Jordon,
right there, spotlight.
Jordon, Richard, David Briggs. Thanks for coming. And we'll see you all another time when I feel like doing another interview.
Yes.
Good night.
Thank you.